everybody. Happy Sunday. Trying to make sure that my tablet found me here. Looks like it. Good. I found myself. That's always a good sign. So sometimes I have trouble. We've had some trouble with that lately, that like people can't find me, and it's there. It appears to be working, but then it doesn't work. So anyway, how is everybody today? Hi, everybody. Not sure who's saying things. I have to see. Oh, hi, Denise. So this is part 4. No, I'm sorry, part 3 of Home is Where the Haunt Is, and part 4 will go up on Facebook in about an hour. So I got it pre-recorded for you, and then I'll also put it up on YouTube. So we're going to be doing a couple of blocks tonight in the class, and we're going to do one that's paper pieced, and one that is hello everybody. Everybody saying hi. Hello. So we're going to do a couple of blocks that are, one's paper pieced and one's we're going to do the little mummy. It's the one with all the little strips that you rip the fabric and everything. And I've done one of those before, so they're a little tricky, and I'm going to try something tonight. I don't know if it's going to work, so you guys get to be my guinea pigs. I always have trouble seeing where to lay the strips down. And so I'm going to try using a different color thread that's not too dark, because everything is white, and you don't want to have a real dark thread underneath, because it's going to show through the fabric. So I have another one here that's kind of lighter colored, but it's dark enough that I think maybe I can see it. So we will try that. And of course, I also ripped the fabric in the wrong direction. So we'll see if we have enough fabric. Hopefully we do. It's always an adventure, isn't it? So how is everybody today? Don't forget to turn off the banner. I will turn off the banner. We haven't got started yet. So I do want to show you something that I'm working on. So I've been trying to decide what I wanted to do for October. And we kind of always sort of skip Thanksgiving. So I decided to do something for Thanksgiving this year. So I've been working on this today, and it's really fun, and it's a little different. So this is the Gather Together pillow. And this is one of the Kimberbell bench pillows, but you could easily make this into a wall hanging. It would be a beautiful wall hanging or table runner. So we're going to work on this. And I didn't realize it. This is all embroidered and multi-hooped and everything. But I didn't realize it. But they also embroider the braid. So it's all done in the hoop. So I was like, woohoo! So I was excited about that. And it's been really fun. So I got the top done. I wanted to show you just the top. So here's the top. So I got this part done. So I got the top done, and here's the braid. Isn't that pretty? I thought it was really cool. But we often just forget about Thanksgiving, and I thought, let's do a Thanksgiving something or other. So this will be for the month of October. And then we're going to do something for Christmas then in November. We're going to do, but yeah, I've had this one for a while, and I didn't realize that the braid for the borders was actually done in the hoop, because I thought it was pieced, and you can piece it traditional if you want to. There's instructions for it. But I thought it was really cool, and it did take a little while. You had to hoop this thing about 6 times, because you keep, and they do like a joining procedure, so that you join this and you make 60 inches of border, and then you cut them in half. So it's pretty cool. So anyway, so that's what I was working on today. That's why I'm a little late getting on. I've been working on this today, and trying to get the top done so that I'm ready to do the quilting. Because of course, I can never do it the way you're supposed to do it. I always do it kind of backwards. So anyway, I did the top first, then I'm going to quilt it. And then I'm going to quilt it, and then we're going to do the embroidery through it, because I'm going to do it kind of backwards. You keep cutting out. Oh, somebody says I'm cutting out. Oh, sorry, Jan. Why don't you go out and come back in again? All right, so let's go ahead, and we're going to start with the little mummy. But I also wanted to show you one other thing, because I've had a couple of questions. So let me switch my camera down. to the other camera. Second here. All right. Get this out of my way. Okay, so the one thing I wanted to talk about quickly before we go on is several people have asked me about the borders, or they've said that they've gone ahead and they've worked ahead and then their borders and their flanges weren't long enough. So this is my trick for that, and we did this in Sweet Land of Liberty. So I would tell you to cut your borders. If you have a full width of fabric, like if you have a half yard piece of fabric like I did or something like that, cut your borders the width they're supposed to be and leave them the full width of the fabric. That's what I've done here. I've got two, this is my flanges, the bigger ones, okay? So I've cut them to, 2.5 by the width of the fabric. Instead of cutting them down, because if you cut them down to the size they say, they may be kind of short, but I'll also give you, do you multi-hoop the designs? Yes. Somebody was asked that about the pillow. Yes, you do. You multi-hoop the designs that go in the center as well. So anyway, this is my flanges, and they are the width, which I believe is 2.5 by the width of the fabric. Okay. So I like to do all of the quilting and then cut them down to fit the pillow, so I don't have to worry. I will show you a way that you can get around that if you've already cut yours down in case. Okay. Now the other ones I had, these are the borders, these are the flanges. The narrower ones, all I had was a fat quarter. So what I did is I just cut the, the width I needed, and I just left it the width of the fat quarter. Okay. So I left them all the same size, and then I can cut them down to the size they need to be. Okay. So depending on the type of fabric you have, so you can see I just have all my borders and flanges just in a couple of strips. Okay. So I would recommend that, because then you don't have to worry about them fitting or not. Okay. So that's what I did. I wanted to talk about that. I had a couple people mention they were struggling with their borders and their flanges. Because if you cut them down to the size they say, you have to be pretty precise, and you can do it. And I will show you a way to get around it if you have already done that. Okay. All right. Hi, Diane. All right, let me get this out of the way. Okay, so the block we're going to do tonight, and then I'll show you the ones at the end that I have pre-recorded for you. So the blocks that we're going to do tonight are these. Let me pull this back a little bit. So we're going to do the little mummy. Now I struggle with these. These are a little bit tricky, and so I'm going to try something tonight to see if it will help me. And I'm also going to use some glue stick. Oh, sorry. Somebody said they couldn't find me. Oh, you found me though, Cindy. Good. So I'm going to try some glue stick too to see if that helps me with these, because I've always struggled with these little ones that you do all this little, fabric pieces on. Okay. And then the other one we're going to do is this one. We're going to do this one down here. We're going to paper piece this one. This one's paper pieced. So this one's really fun. Okay. So that's the two that we're going to do tonight. All right. Let me lay this one back up here. All right. So we're going to start with the mummy. Now, the one thing I did do, it tells you the first instruction here is to fuse fusible backing to the wrong side of the head fabric, which is the smaller of the white pieces. There's a big white piece that you're supposed to, cut all the little piece. We're going to do this in a second. You cut all the little strips out to make his wrappings. But then there's a smaller one, and then they tell you to put a piece of Shapex on the back. Okay. So which I did. Now I also put a piece of Shapex on the back of the little face, which was kind of this little tannish color, because you do actually put that down first and then you put this on top. So I thought you might kind of see the purple through this. So I thought, well, I'll put a piece on that too. It doesn't say to, but I did. Okay. So I got those two pieces, but my Shapex. And then it says to mark the wrap fabric every 1/2 inch along one long edge. Well, of course, Jan turned it the wrong way and did it the other way. All right. So I hope I have enough little strips. So what I did is I marked it, and then I cut all these strips, but some of the strips are really short, so I should be able to fudge it and make it work. So what you do is you cut, you mark it along one long edge with a water-soluble pen. I didn't actually do that. I just took my rotary cutter and I just went up every half inch and I just cut a slit on the edge, and then I started to rip. Okay. So that went a little bit faster. And then I went to the ironing board and I ironed these all out, because otherwise they're all like all, really, really curly. So they're pretty good now. And then I'm going to try a little glue stick tonight to see if that helps. So here's all my little mummy wrappings. Okay. I didn't actually mark them with the pen, but if you want to, you can do that. And then, but I just used my rotary cutter, and you can just cut them too. If you want to just cut them with the rotary cutter. I remember the first one of these I did. It was on another project, but I couldn't get the fabric to rip. So I don't know if I had it the wrong direction, or, might have been a scrap and I was trying to rip the wrong direction. Wouldn't rip for me. So I just cut them, but these look really cool because then they look all, raw on the edges and stuff. So, okay. Looks a little more like mummy wrappings. Okay. And then of course we're going to, let me put my mummy wrappings over here. And we also need, I guess I don't need my baggie. We also are going to have this is our background fabric. This is that purple, and it was kind of strong. So I thought I'd put some shape flex on the back of both of these, just in case it would kind of come through. And then you're also going to need a couple pieces of water soluble topping, because we're going to be working with all these little strips and you don't want it to get caught under your foot. Okay, so I've got a couple pieces of water soluble. I think I only needed 2, but I can't remember. So if I have to cut a third one, it's behind me. Okay, so I got those over there. Then we're going to put in our hoop. We're going to use no-show mesh stabilizer, because of course we're going to quilt this too. Okay, so we're going to do the quilting first. I got my no-show mesh in here. I've got my chunk of batting here somewhere. It disappeared. Oh, here it is. It kind of likes to get away from me. All right, I've got regular bobbin thread in the bobbin, and I'm going to put purple in the needle, because I think that's the color I want to quilt with purple. So that's the color of my block. Okay, so we're going to go over here, and I used on this one, I'm not sure what they told you at the beginning to use, but I used Halloween 4. Halloween 4 is what I used for this one. Where's number 7? Yeah, I switched this one. They had so many, quilting designs. I used Halloween 4 for this one. So I'm going to go and get my Halloween 4 first. So a second, I got to find my stick and go to my quilting, Kimberbell quilting, and then we're going to get Halloween 4 is what I used. And it's the 4x4. So I've got a 5x7 hoop is what I'm using here. So let's go Halloween 4. They're in alphabetical order, so I should be able to find it. F, G, H. We're getting close. Halloween 4. Here we go. We're going to click embroidery files. It's the block by block. And then we're going to do 4x4. So here's the 4x4. It's the one with the little candy corns. Yeah, little candy corn flowers. It's really cute. So I'm going to set that. Okay. And then I'm going to go grab my little design. Whoop. Going to hit the add button down here. And then I'm going to get, let's see, home is where here it is. Home is where the haunt is. Embroidery files. And then I'm going to get, here's my little mummy. Here he is. Okay. He's going to be in the center there. And he's centered, so we don't have to move anything around. Okay. So we're going to start out with the quilting. Sure, I got all my quilting stuff here. Okay. So like I said, you guys are going to be my guinea pigs. Now I've got my purple thread in the bobbin because I want to quilt this with purple. I'm sorry, I've got purple thread in the needle. I've got my bobbin thread in the bobbin. Got a number 11 needle in the machine. And then we're going to switch over and we'll probably just use white. Or I've got another color. I'm going to try using this other color part of the time to see it. I have a really hard time seeing where you have to put these little things, because they tell you that they give you all these little placement lines, and I really struggled with these. So our little quilting stuff is first, and of course the first step is always the placement line for the batting. So we're going to place the batting first. Let's see if I got enough of this little chunk up here. There we go. And then we're going to tack it down. Number 2 is always the tack down, so this is the same as they've been. So how is everybody tonight? I've been enjoying working on that Thanksgiving pillow. You know, like I said, we kind of forget Thanksgiving and we kind of just go right on to Christmas. So we are going to do Christmas, another Christmas bench pillow. I just couldn't resist. I made it last winter. We're going to do Candy Cane Lane. What about light gray to use on your mummy? It should be two. Oh, that would be possible. Yes, I could use the light gray, but you're going to really see it. So I'm going to try something on the underneath, which is like the placement lines, Denise, and then put the white on the top, because the white on the top is fine. It's the placement lines I struggle with. This has always been, I've done this a couple of times now with some of the, they had like a dealer exclusive one that they did like this with all the little strips, and it was really kind of hard to do. So that's why I picked this one to do in the class. So hopefully Jan doesn't mess up too much. So we'll see how it goes. I've always struggled with these. Okay, so we trimmed our batting, and then I'm going to get this out of my way. And then the next step, it's always the same order. Step number 3 is going to be the placement line for the fabric. But this is really a cute little design, and I know that the last time I did it, I was very happy when I was done. But this time, hopefully, I thought about a couple things that might help me. So we'll see how things go tonight. You guys might be laughing at me. All right. So we got our placement line for our fabric. Now we're going to lay the fabric down. Kind of get it centered here. And this has got the shape flex on it too. So I usually put shape flex on the back, you know, the background pieces. So it's got shape flex. And then I did put it on the piece of white and the piece of his little face, because I thought maybe the purple would bleed through. Okay. So then we're going to tack this down. So that's step number 4. So how's everybody doing on their pillows? Is everybody working along and getting along okay with them? They're really fun to do. And you would be so proud of me, that whole Thanksgiving pillow that I'm working on, everything came from my stash, except for the piece on the end. Judy brought me I needed another tan, and Judy brought me a little piece of tan to put on the ends. I was very proud of myself. Oh, the Christmas? For Christmas, yes. So we're going to do Gather Together. That's the Thanksgiving one. We'll do that in October. And then I've got, in the first week of November, I've got another class. And then for the last 3 classes of the year, we're going to work on Candy Cane Lane. Because Candy Cane Lane is actually really fun, and it's not really hard. And you can do that. What? Oh, and you can, Candy Cane Lane is not real hard. It has really cute blocks in it. And it does not require a lot of fabric. And neither did this Gather Together. There's really not a lot of fabric in that either. And so I just pulled I had enough fabrics in my stash to easily do that. I think I quilted this in purple. Yep. All of a sudden I looked at it and I was like, did I put this in purple? I did. Oh, cool. Somebody's up. No, oh, Elaine. Yeah. I thought I had a kit for Gather Together, and I ended up having the kit for the other fall one. It says Welcome Autumn, and I really didn't. I wanted to do the Thanksgiving one, because you know we just don't do enough Thanksgiving. Can you show the Thanksgiving pillow? I will show you the picture. I just have the top done today. That's all I got done. So Cindy, here's the pillow. Here's the picture of the pillow. This is Gather Together. So that's what we're going to do. But we're going to do it different. We're going to piece these braids are all pieced in the hoop. Okay. So the first week we'll piece these, and then we're going to put the rest of the top together. And then the second week we'll be quilting it, because we're going to quilt it first. And then the third week we'll do the embroidery, and the fourth week we'll put it together. Oh, somebody said they did that a year ago. Yeah, I really like this one. I've always thought I'd do it, and I really thought I had a kit for it, but I didn't. I had the other one. I had the other autumn one. So, all right. So here is our quilted little mummy base. Okay, so the next step is going to be stitch the face placement line. Place face right side up. Okay, so my face, I think I'm going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and put the white in, even just for this part, because it's going to be covered up. I'll put the white in for right now, but I'm going to switch back and forth. I've got kind of a light tan color that I'm going to use a little bit. So let's just put the white in, I think, now. And then we're going to do a little placement line. That's going to be his face. And that's this little piece here, and it's this little tan. Yeah, don't you think it'd be fun to do something for Thanksgiving? It seems like we kind of skip over Thanksgiving. And I have done some fall stuff and some Thanksgiving stuff, but I thought this would be fun. So here's my placement line. I'm going to go ahead and put my little piece of face. So his face is that kind of tannish color. And I'm going to then tack it down. And this has got a little piece of shape flex on it too. It didn't call for it, but I went ahead and put it on because I thought maybe that's actually on the purple. So I thought it might bleed through. And you don't have to make it a pillow. You can easily make it a table runner or a wall hanging. So I just thought it'd be pretty to do something for Thanksgiving. And I thought the design was really pretty. But I thought we were going to be piecing that braid, and when it was in the hoop, I'm like, oh yay! Got the paper piece in the hoop. Got that all done today. Okay, so there's our little head. That's his little face. And then the next step is going to be the placement line for his little body. So they put a full piece of white on the underneath all of the little strips. Okay. And I think we have to do a little reverse applique. Yes, we have to do a little reverse applique, of course, because we need this to show through the middle. So reverse applique is really fun. You know, you just cut out the middle. Same concept as regular applique, but you also have to cut out the middle. All right, so then we're going to lay this down. So here's my white. I'm going to make sure I get it right side up. And it's got the shape flex on the back as well. I'm going to lay this down. And then we're going to tack this one down. So the other blocks that we're going to do that are in the other video that will go up, it should be going up pretty soon. I have it go up about 7 o'clock. And the other blocks are going to be this square and a square block. And then this broom is one I did. Now this broom is done a little differently. You kind of have to piece it and then go back and quilt it and then do the embroidery on top. Okay, so this one's a little different because of the way doing it, the quilt as you go method. And then there's a couple little border blocks that I just quilted. Okay. All right. We're getting ready to do the applique, and so we're going to stitch the head tack down, trim the fabric close to the stitch line, remove the top intersection layer only. Yes, so stitch, yep, so we need to do this part because they have you trim, stitch the head tack down line, trim the fabric close to the stitch line. Okay, so we did that, and then remove the top intersection, this little area here, so for his little face. Wanted to make sure. Hopefully I got that right side up. Yep. This is one of those fabrics you just don't know. It's got little teeny tiny polka dots. You probably can't see them. And I'm going to use one piece of Kimberbell fabric in the gather together. You know, those pillows were older ones and they were originally just sewing patterns. And so I don't think it must have been before they had a fabric line. So now to get in here, I'm just going to take my scissors. You have to be a little careful. I'm just going to kind of snip a little bit and stick the point of my scissor in there. See if I got through my shape flex. Don't think I did. There we go. So you want to be careful that you don't cut the fabric underneath. All right. I'm stuck. So then we're going to take this little piece out. So when you're doing reverse applique, you got to be a little careful that you don't trim your, don't cut your fabric that's underneath there. And it helps, these little Ginger scissors are really, really sharp, so it's easy to get through the fabric. There we go. So there's his little head. And then you can see his little face. All right, so I think the next step, is his little eyes. So we're going to do his eyes next. So I'm going to put some black in to make him have black eyes. All right, whoops, there we go. So then in January, we'll start the Kimberbell Cuties, those little table toppers. And we're actually going to start in January with the February one, and we'll do the January one in December. So we're just going to skip a month and do them a month ahead. Okay, so here, whoops, put the flipper down, Jan. We'll do the little eyes. And then the next step, this is on the top of page 22. This is stitch the wrap strips A placement line. So this is where I get a little bit, this is where I have a little trouble. So we're going to try something. And I'm going to put this, I've got this kind of tan that's more the color of his face here. I'm going to put that in and see if I can see it a little better because I struggle with the white thread. So let's see, and I may have to go grab my glasses too. They're over on my table. So let's put this, I'm going to put this tan color in and see if I can see it a little bit better. It's the second one that really gets me because the second one is on top of the first ones, and then it's like they all kind of gobbledygook together, so it's really hard. Okay, so we're going to stitch these placement lines. This is step number, 6 in the machine. It's 11, after you have the quilting. And then I think I'm going to go get my glasses just a second here. They're just a little ways away from me. And I also do, I've also struggled with this with just the tape. So what I think I'm going to try, we're going to try it tonight. I'm going to try putting just a little bit, which quilting, somebody asked which quilting design I used. Peggy, I used Halloween 4 because I didn't have you get, they had so many designs in this one that I pared them down a little bit. So there's not so many. So I used Halloween 4. And my comments are not coming through on StreamYard too well, so I apologize. I'm seeing them on Facebook though, so. All right. So I think there's about 6. Place 6 wrap strips right side up, centering the strips over the placement lines, trimmed strip ends or tape strip ends in place. Okay, so since Jan cut her fabric wrong, we may have to do this a little bit differently. So here's the 6. You can see these better. Okay, so let me grab my here's all my little mummy strips. And these, it's very hard for me to tell if it's right side up or not, so I'm going to do the best I can. So I want these to stick out past the end, but what I think I'm going to do is grab my little glue stick, and I'm just going to run some glue stick along that line, and I'm going to let it stick out like this. So just kind of center it, and then I'm just going to cut this off because I don't think I have enough mummy wrappings, because I know it's only going to be out as big as this. See? Okay, so let's grab another one. So here's another one of those lines. Let's put the little bit of glue stick on there. And let's see here. We can get, I think we can get another one out of this strip. Like that. And then this one goes up this way. So let's try another one. See, can you see that one? See, this one kind of went this way. This is what I had trouble with, because you kind of like covered them up, you know. Second here, whoops. So we're going across this way. So let's go across this way, and it goes up this way. So I'm just going to take my glue stick. And this is that little sew line glue stick that works really well. You see, I can't, whoops, where'd my glasses go? Trying to see if I can see top and bottom here. It's very hard. I figured no one's probably going to notice. Okay, so make sure it's just sticking out. And then I'm going to lay this down. Now this one I should have ironed a little bit better, but I think it'll be okay. Okay. Just going to trim this off, since, like I said, I don't know that I have enough. And then this one goes this way. This really helped with this. See, was there enough here to do another one? Yeah. And then this one goes this way. So let's do this one. Put a little glue stick on it. And then we'll tape these all down too. So I'm going to put this down. Okay. And we'll do this one. And then the other one kind of goes across here. But see, that using that other color, just it's still light, so it's not going to really show. Let's see here. Got to find the top. This is as close as I can get, I think. Boy, this one really ripped weird. All right, we'll try this like this. Yeah, I remember doing these in the Kimberbell club, and oh my gosh, I just struggled with it because it's so hard to tell where anything is. Okay, and then this one goes this way. So we're just gonna, and it doesn't matter which way you do the strips, you know, you can have them whatever way you put them on, it doesn't matter. So just put a little glue stick on there. And then I'm going to run this across here. All right. Well, then I could really see. All right. So then get some of these tails out of here. What does it say to do? Then it says to place the wash away. We're going to tape the ends down too. So I'm just going to take a little tape, and we'll tape the ends down for sure, because we don't want them going anywhere. And there's plenty of room to tape them. So we'll just tape them down. Because I just put the glue stick underneath of them. I don't want them, you know, in the stitching. So we'll just put a little tape down here. I've got my Kimberbell paper tape that I've got a little dispenser over here. All right. And then it says to place the wash away topping completely covering the design, tape in place. So that is going to be on top. So we're going to take a piece. I had a piece cut. We'll lay this down. So we want to cover all those little things up so we don't take the chance of it getting caught anywhere. And I do tape this down. Mine is very curly tonight, I noticed. Sorry, guys. It's humid. Can you tell? Gets a little bit on the curly side. All right, let's get that laid down. Okay. Get another piece of tape. That really helped, because then I could see what I was doing. All right, so let's see how that goes. So now what it's going to do, I'm going to go ahead, stitch the wrap strips a tack down line. Do not remove tape or topping at this time. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to stitch the little placement lines, or the little tack down lines. So I'm going to go ahead and put my white in for that, so that the white is on the top. So we'll just put the white back in. You're frozen and video stopped. Okay. I'm just going to keep going. Is it still frozen, guys? Is it still frozen? Oh, golly. Is it still frozen? Mine is fine. Okay, so, but it looks like no, I'm not frozen on my end. Not here. Okay, so am I okay? I can still see me moving. It is frozen on my, no, I don't think it is though. Yeah, no, it's not. It's still going. So I think we're okay. So I've got my piece of water soluble, and I got my white thread now threaded in the needle. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do step number 7 in the machine, which is going to be, all is good. Awesome. Thank you, guys. And this is going to tack all these little strips down. Now that water soluble glue stick, you know, this little sew line glue stick is not not going to gum up your needle, and it works really well for little things like this. Okay, so we're stitching the little tack down lines. It says stitch the wrap strips A tack down lines. Do not remove tape or topping at this time. Okay. And so then we're going to do the other placement lines before we take off the first layer of water soluble. We don't want to get our foot caught on any of this stuff. So this is working a little better for me. This is cute because I could see what I was doing. And then it's going to show white on the top, which is what I want. Cool. So thanks everybody for letting me know. Sometimes it's hard to tell on my end because it looks fine on my screen. So okay, so just so you know, it'll probably be about an hour, about 2 hours tonight, because you know we have 2 blocks to do, and I really want you to see the whole block. So we're just going to do 2 blocks together, and if you want to come and go, you can, and it'll all be videoed, and you can go back watch it later. But that way, everybody will get to see everything. Okay. So that's the tack down lines, and it said don't remove this. So now it says to stitch the wrap strips B placement lines. So I'm going to go back to that tan again for that, because then I'm going to be able to see it. So we're going to take this, then I'll be able to see the lines a little bit better. Okay. So then we're going to do the placement lines again. So I left my tape and all my stuff on so that I'm not going to catch my foot. And then we remove the tape, tear away the excess wash away stabilizer, because then we got to put the second layer down. And I think there's just 2 layers. So, but this worked really good with the different color. Don't you think that really helped? Because I was kind of worried about this tonight, because I thought, well, how am I going to do this easier? Because sometimes I just struggle with things, but I didn't think about it until this afternoon. It's like, if you just put another darker yet still light color, it wouldn't show through the white. So, all right, so I can see the lines. All right, and how many are there this time? There's 7 strips this time. So make sure I get all 7 strips on tonight. Yeah, it looks like we're still moving. We must be okay. All right, so now I can see them. So now we're going to take off the plastic. Is there one more? There must be one more line to do. And I don't have to be quite so careful with my strips. I think we're good. Cool, so I can actually see them. Just those little things in life, guys. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take this, and we're going to take all the tape off. And oops, got two tapes here. I'm going to hold those because I'll be able to use those again. And then I've got another piece of this water soluble over there. We're just going to pull this off. Going to get as much of this off as I can. And then I think I'll just leave those taped. Okay. I don't know if we can get this all off or not. It says, what did it say? Remove tape, tear away excess, wash away. Okay, so I'm going to get as much of it off as I can. But if there's a little bit underneath, I don't think it really matters because you're probably not going to see it. Let's see how we do here. There's a lot of little lines in here, so. And you can always tap it with a wet rag afterwards and it'll come off. So I'm just going to pull away as much of it as I can. All right, that's better. Got most of it off. Okay, so where the tan lines are then is where I need to put my little strips. So let's get our glue stick again here. You can see. So there's one here. Let's do this one. One over here. See if I can get it right side up. It'll be out here. There's one there. Let's trim that off, I guess. And then there's one here. So let's do that one. So they said there were 7, right? So you have to help me count. Here's 2. And then, oops. Get this one on there. There's 2. I remember when I did this first time, I don't think I ever got one of the strips on. 2. And then there's one down here. So let's try that one. And then there's one here, and one here. So that's 2, 3, 4, and then 5. So here's 3. Let's do this one, and then there's a little one at the bottom here. Let's see here. Let's do this one. I'm going to do this one. Okay. Cut that one off, and then this one, there's a little short one across the bottom there. So let's do that one. Yeah, the other color really helped, because then I can kind of see where I'm going. Okay, there's that one, and then there's one that went this way. So it's kind of running this direction, up this way. Okay. Oh, I had plenty of strips. Yeah, they gave you a lot of fabric, but I was worried that since I cut it the wrong direction, that I wouldn't have enough. But I think, and then there's one here, and there's one over here. So there's one here. So I think we're going to get them all. So there's one here. Okay. And then there's one this direction, and there's one way over here. So this one here, put one here. Oops. My goodness, I got strings. This has been a fun project. I love this pillow. And I don't do a lot of Halloween stuff either, but I've done quite a few Halloween things lately. Okay, and then the other one's right over here. So this one's going to go along. Let's see, I don't think I got much glue up here. Kind of runs along there. There we go. So it goes up here, along there, and then this one ran along this edge right here. I think that was 7. Were you guys counting for me? Did I get them all? Cut that one off a little bit. Did I get them all? I think that was 7. Okay. Yeah, I was sweating about this one. I wasn't sure. I had a couple ideas. Yes, you did. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So now it says to, we place the 7 and then we're going to tape the ends. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this tape up and I'm going to add these ones we just did to it. Like this. Okay. This one's kind of long. We'll cut this one off. And do this up here, if I can get a hold of it. Thank you for counting for me, Deb. I think it was Deb that said that. Yep, awesome. Thanks for keeping track of me. You just got to keep track of me. All right, then we're going to lay this up here. Okay, so now we got those all laid down. And then it says to place that wash away topping over the top again. So I've got my other piece. Hopefully it's still here. Here it is. So we'll lay this over the top again. And then I got my tape up here from that. Make sure it's not all rolled up. Sorry. Everything's so curly today. There. Whoops. Hopefully it'll stay out. I might have to put a little more tape on it, but I think it'll be okay. All right. So we got all of those. And now we're going to do the tack down for those. And I'm going to put my white back in. Boy, that tan really helped, didn't it? Do this one. And we'll do all the trimming at the end because we'll trim both blocks. So we'll trim the other one at the end. We'll trim this one at the end after we do the other one. Okay, I got a bunch of little pieces here. I'll get all this stuff off of here. All right. I think I need another piece of tape. This one's a brilliant idea using the cream color. Oh, I know. I just struggle. The first time I did this, oh my gosh, I just was struggling. And I'm like, that's why I chose this one to do on the live, because I thought, you know what? You guys get to be my guinea pigs. We'll give this a whirl. Okay, so now we're going to be using the white. It looks like I might have a little tape in there. Let me look. Did I get the tape in here? Yep, I got a little tape in here, but you know what? We can get it out of there. It'll come out. All right. So it's going to sew through a little tape, but I've had worse things happen. All right. So we got it all covered up so we know it's not going to catch on our foot. But because I thought about, well, I could use black or I could use gray. Like Denise said, gray would be okay too. But I was just trying to find something light colored that wouldn't show through the white. So that this tannish color that's sort of like the side color of the face, I thought, well, that would be a safe color to use. So, all right. So there's 2 of them. And I think this is almost the last step. Then we just have to trim all of our little strips off. Actually, I'm not even sweating. Yeah, the gray would work really good. Who said that? Yeah, the gray. Yeah, the gray would. I thought something that was similar colored, because they don't tell you anything in the instructions, And but I did these with, I think they were with one of the events maybe, that they had some little or maybe the dealer exclusives. I think it was dealer exclusives for October one time we did. And they were really, really cute, but boy, did they make you sweat because you couldn't tell where you were going. And then we'll trim him and he'll be all done. He's all quilted. This is a fun clap. This is a fun pillow. I like this one, and I'm really enjoying doing that braid today. So I think that's going to be a really fun one to do. and it's different. I'm doing it differently than the instructions, so we're kind of doing it backwards. So, because I want to quilt it in the embroidery machine and not quilt it manually. All right, let's see how we're doing here. Ooh, I think we're done. So then it says to using the head fabric tack down line as a guide, trim around the excess strips. All right, so let's pull all this stuff off here and see how we did. Keep these tapes, I might need them. All right, whoop. There we go. I want to put it on there. I went through a lot of tape today because you had to tape down stuff for the for that braid today too. And they have you use a thumbtack to line it up, part of it. That's how we used to line everything up, was with thumbtacks in the olden days of doing multiple hoopings. All right, so let's pull all this stuff off of here. Some more tape. I think I did. Oh, I might have just missed that piece of tape. Let me see. I might have just barely missed it. Ooh, just barely. Got it. So we're good. I'm gonna put my glasses on though. I can't see it that well. There we go. Okay. Got a little more plastic in there. Now some of that plastic I may have to get off with a little bit of a wet rag. Sometimes it's hard to get it off, but and then I'll pull some of these little strings too and cut them off and stuff and neaten them up. Okay, so then you're going to take the little head. You know, we went around the little head part earlier, and then we're going to trim off these wrappings. So we're just going to use that as our trimming guide. So how did we do here? You kind of have to watch what you're doing so you can see where you trimmed. So I'm just trimming around. I'm not sure that I'm beautiful. I may have to clean up a little bit, but there's a lot of little pieces. So you can see what I'm doing. Okay, we're getting there. Oops, got a tail. Oh my gosh, that was a lot easier with that other colored thread, wasn't it? Look at there. There he is. And then see, we got to, we can clean up some of these little, I got a little more plastic there. We can clean up some of his little bandages so his bandages are not quite so stringy. Look at there, isn't he cute? I'll just clean him up a little bit. And looks like I got a jump clip there in the middle. All right, let's get some of this off of here. That looks pretty good. And then we'll trim him here in a little bit, but we're going to go on and we're going to do the flying geese. See if I can get rid of some of it so you can see it. There he is. Yeah, so I just need to clean up some of the little strings. You can kind of go in here and clean him up a little bit. Looks pretty good. That was a lot easier than the first one. I was kind of making, I said some bad words when I was doing the other one. But the glue stick really helped too, because then it holds everything down for me. And it still looks like I might have missed one. Did I miss one here? No, it's just underneath. It's just underneath. No, I didn't miss one. It's just underneath. It's okay. All right. I thought I missed one, but I didn't. Okay, there he is. So we'll trim him in a little bit. So we're just going to move on to the next one. So you can get to see both of them. I'll get rid of my rest of my wrappings here out of the way. Okay. So we'll put this one over here. And then I'm going to bring up the flying geese. Now, there's actually a couple ways to quilt these, but we're going to quilt this in the hoop. This one's in a 6x10 hoop. Oops. Helps it jam, puts the hoop in right side up. There we go. All right. And let me find my page here. And the little guy, the little mummy's going to be trimmed to 4.5 by 4.5. We'll do that at the end. We'll do them both at the same time. So I only have to move the camera once. Okay. So here is this is the flying geese. Now the rest of the blocks are kind of paper pieced. So these are all kind of the paper piecing ones, but so you can do the paper pieced ones two different ways. You can either paper piece it with the water or with the no-show mesh, and then cut it out and use the method number 2 for the quilting. But what I'm going to do is just use I'm just going to do these in the hoop all in one hooping. Okay, so I did these this way in the video. So what I did is we're just going to put the piecing, the little grid, like our little template grid here on top of the batting. Okay, so and then these are quilted using technique number 2, which is the ones which are the ones that these are already cut to the correct size. Okay, so those are in the video. So all right, so let's grab these. So I've got all my little pieces here, and I've got a piece of batting. Get all these little pieces. Hopefully they're not all, oh good, they're not all wrinkly. So I don't have to get up and iron. Okay, so here's my purple pieces. These are going to be the geese, and these are the outside borders, the black. Okay, so I've got those all there. I've got mummy wrappings all over me here. All right, let's get rid of some of these tapes. All right, so first thing we're going to do is get our design. So this one I used Halloween 1, and the block ends up 2 by 8 finished. So yeah, because we're going to trim it 2.5 by 8.5. So we're going to get Halloween 1 is what I used for this one. So let's go hit the home button, and we're going to go back to the stick. And I'm going to get Halloween 1, 2 by 8. So in my quilting, Halloween 1, I said. Oh, this is the one that has the spider webs. So let's see. Helps if I could spell tonight. Tonight is not a good spelling night. There we go. Whoops. Halloween 1. We're going to use the PES. We're going to use the block by block. So this is 2 by 8. So 2 by 6. Here's the 2 by 8. Okay. And then I'm going to set that. And then I'm going to add my design, which is the flying geese. So I'm going to grab that. So I've got this in my 6 by 10 hoop because it's kind of long. It's 8.5 inches long. Let's see here. Yeah, the other one, somebody said that they were glad that they saw the video of this one. You may want to watch the video for the broom too, because that one's done a little differently. You got to quilt it, and then you got to back up and do the broom, because otherwise the quilting will be on top of the broom. So you have to kind of stop in the middle and quilt and then go back. So they don't tell you a lot of these things. Whoops, I don't think I got the right one. Just a minute. Is that it? Did I get it? 5 by 7, 5 by 7. Okay, it's this one. Okay, it's funny, did I get the right? Weird. What did I do? Did I do something strange? I don't think so. 2 by 8, that looks right. I think this is going to be okay. Let's look at this one. Yeah, because it's going to end up the same size, and that one's 2 by 8. Well, we'll see how we go here. This is the way I intended to do it. I have done it differently. I have done these differently and done them like I pieced this whole thing in is that the correct order? Yes and no, because we're going to do part of it and then we're going to back up and do it. So yes, so we're gonna back up and do part of it. So we have to get the batting down so that we have batting to stitch on, and then you can piece over the batting. The other way to do this would be to actually do it just in the hoop and then do method number 2 for this one. And you can do that too, but it's still going to be the same size. So we should be okay. So let's just try it. This is how I did the square in a square. So we'll just give it a whirl and see if it works. I don't know why it says 2x8 though. That's very odd. But I got the 2x8. Let me go back and check my size to make sure I did it correctly. Maybe I wrote something down wrong. So the flying geese is, oh, there's like black fabric on the ends. So 12 flying geese, 2x8. Yeah, 2x8 flying geese, Halloween. Yeah, well, let's just give it a whirl. Hopefully it works. Otherwise, I should have done it the other way. So we'll give it a whirl. I'm going to go ahead and piece, I think, in the black because it's all dark. So I think I'll piece it in the black. Because I'm pretty sure this is how I did it. Oops, there we go. Let's put black thread in now. Still got just my regular bobbin thread in. I have to say it does look a little strange, but it said 5x7. Let's just go check let's go check again, make sure we got it right. It says, that's what it said, 2x8, and we do let me go look at the trimming just to make sure. I always have to look at the trimming directions because it tells me. So it's going to be 2.5 by 8.5. Yeah, 2.5 by 8.5. And yep, so 2x8 is what it needs to be. So, all right, well, we'll see how it goes here. We'll get it again. 2x8. And I did change this. I used a different quilting one on this one. What did I say? 1? Did I use 1 or 4? 1. So I did use a different one this time than I did the last time. Halloween 1. Embroidery files. Okay. So 2x8 is what it is. So we'll just give it a whirl here. Okay. And then we're going to edit. Whoops, sorry, not edit. We're going to add. And we're going to bring up the flying geese. Home is where the haunt is. PES. Let's make sure we got the right one because sometimes there's 2. 5x7. Isn't that odd that it comes up in the 5x7 and it ends up being 2x8? Very odd. Okay, well, we'll just give it a whirl. Might have to do this one a different way, but I think we can make it work. Because the fabric... Okay, well, let's just give it a whirl. It's been a while since I've done this one, and I know I did it all on the hoop. So the first step is going to be, we're going to get our batting down here. And I know I did it this way. I just don't remember it looking that strange. All right, so here we go. Again, you guys get to be my guinea pigs tonight. It's been a while since I've done this. So there's that, and then we're going to lay our batting down. Oops, got it stuck. I'm going to put this in here, and then we're going to tack our batting down. So these are always in the same order. I remember when I got this the book for this, that there was not a lot of instructions in it, and you kind of had to figure it out as you went, because like when you looked at things, it's like, well, I usually can piece on top of the batting, so it should be okay, but you can't quilt it until you get all the fabric down, right? So it should work out right. So we'll just see what happens. We may have to leave out like a tack down line or something. So, because it's supposed to be about 8 inches long. Okay. All right. So let's see what happens. I'm going to trim this. And if I did it wrong, I will re-video it. I'm sorry if I do it wrong. So hopefully, but I remember doing it this way in the when I did it before. So I just don't remember it looking odd. But you know, it might have been because I had a different, I did use a different quilting design. So maybe it's just the quilting design that makes it look strange. Okay. All right. So there's our batting. So that's the first step. And then the next step would be the placement line for the fabric, and then the tack down line for the fabric, and then the quilting. Well, we don't want to do that right now. We want to piece this. We need to get all of our fabric down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to skip forward through those 3 items, and then we're going to go to the little, we need this little roadmap to help us, know where to put our fabric. So that's going to be the next thing that's going to sew down then. So that's the little roadmap. So you can see the little roadmap is short, which is odd, but I think there's fabric that sticks out on the ends. So I think it'll be okay. It just looks very strange right now, but we'll work with it. And then it's going to do the little geese. See if I can get some more of the mummy wrappings off of him. He's very linty. All right. So this is going to be, yeah, our little roadmap. And they always give you, like a little outline here to help you know where to make sure you have fabric over that, because that's like the outside line of our fabric or of our block. Because you need to have a seam allowance. That's what I'm trying to say. So, all right. So, whoops. Looks like it might have unthreaded just a second here. My machine decided to unthread itself. Do that again. Back up a couple stitches. Oops. And then we'll start paper piecing. I just love paper piecing. This is one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, see, I think there's actually some fabric that's down here that will be covered up, because it is 8 inches long. I'll measure my block. I'll measure it. Yeah, the block is 8 inches long. But that's the only one that's on there, so it looks like you should have used this 2x6 instead of a 2x8. No, it's 2x8 because the block is 8 inches long. So, but and then when you if you look in the trimming instructions, it says that you trim the block 8.5 inches long, and then it's only 2.5 inches wide. So I think it's right. I think it just looks weird right now. Okay. So the first step is going to be, then we're starting to piece. So I got to get my little piece out. So the first thing is going to be this little piece right here, and that's a goose. So one of the little geese. So we're going to lay the purple over that. So it's going to be this one right here. And the first time you lay it down, it's going to be right side up. And I'm going to make sure that there's fabric down here to cover up the batting. All right, so then we're going to do that one. So this one's going to be across here. Oops, I don't think I got it quite high enough. Like that. Yeah, because I just measured the block, and it is 8 inches long, so it should be right. Okay. So we're going to trim this. So this paper piecing is always the same. We're going to trim it. It's always going to be in the same order. So you place the first one is always right side up. Okay. And then the next piece is going to be one of the background pieces, which is black. So I'm going to lay the background piece along that line there. And the right sides together. after I trimmed, and then I'm going to sew this line, and then we're going to flip it over. And like I said, I have done this 2 different ways. I've done it like I just do this on the, I've just done the paper piecing on the no-show mesh, and then I have see, I think I could have moved this over a little bit, but you know what? I probably should have moved this one over just a little bit, but we'll see. Hopefully I don't have a little gap down here. We'll see. Because this first little piece, I think maybe could have come over. You know what? Let me try that. I think I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna rip because I don't want to have a little gap. So we'll just you know, bear with me. Should have moved this little orange, the little purple piece over a little bit. Sometimes this happens when I get started. When I first get started, I'm like, ooh, should have moved that over a little bit. All right, so let's move this over. Okay, I'm just gonna back up. The beginning of my piecing. Okay, so I'm gonna lay this down. I think I'm gonna move this over this way a little bit so that it covers up this little side over here a little bit more. And up a little bit. Where'd it go? Okay, it's covering it. Okay, all right, I think we're gonna be good. So let's try this. I mean, you won't have that little spot over there. They make these plenty big, so because I hate it when I have a little empty spot, and I've done that more than once. You think you got, oh, I've got it all covered up. Nope. Okay, let's try it. And we're going to lay this down again. So it's always good when you have to start over, right? When you make a mistake. And I like to leave the mistakes in my videos because you know, everybody learns from my mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. I think I've made every mistake there is known to man on an embroidery machine. Okay, there we go. See, now I don't have that little gappy thing going on down there. All right, and then we're going to go across this way. So I think it's going to be okay. Because this part is where the thing's going to be. I think it's going to be all right. So we'll see. I think I might have been able to move my, maybe I put the little piece of fabric the wrong direction. You know, there's actually one way was just a little taller than the other. Maybe I should have flipped it over. Okay. So then we trim across the top. And then the next one is going to be another piece of the purple for the goose. So I have to look and see where my line is so I can make sure I get it covered there. I think it's over here a little bit. There we go. It's a little hard to see. So then, because this one's kind of offset this way. All right. Put right sides together, just like we're sewing it together. It has been a while since I've done this block. I did this pillow quite a while ago, and I made some notes. All right, so we're going to flip this up. And then we're going to, it's going to go down across here, and then we're going to put more background in there. Some more background fabric in there. I'm going to trim first. Trim across here. Make sure I got the right color. Yep. So I'm kind of on the bottom of page 26, just so you know. Try not to have to take the hoop out of the machine to. Okay, then we're going to go across this way and make sure we cover up all that line. I think we're going to be fine. I have confidence. But it's funny because I'm pretty sure I did it this way the first time because I wrote my notes that way, so I assumed I did. But there are two ways to do it. You could do it with the you know, just doing this on the no-show mesh and then cutting it out and then quilting it at the end. All right, so then it's going to go, I think it's going to go this way next. So I got this one. Oh yeah, it's going to go across the top. So we're going to put another goose on, I think. Oops, I think it unthreaded itself again. It likes to unthread black thread for some reason. My machine doesn't always like black thread. I don't know why. It just likes to unthread it. All right, got to back up. There we go. I thought the hard one was going to be the mummy. Crossed here. And then we're going to put another goose block on. Trim this one. So it's always the same order. These all go in the same order. Whoops, crossed here. See if I can get it. Sometimes there's a little stitch down there. It's hard to get to. There we go. Cross there. And then we're going to do another goose block. So this is going to be this little piece right here. And this one's kind of in this area. So we'll get it lined up. So if you kind of center it on the little line that it sews, then normally you're okay. Except sometimes the first one, you have to be a little careful and make sure you get it, you know, everything covered up. Okay, then we're going to flip this one up. And I just usually use, you know, my fingers to do the finger press it really nice. And you want it to be nice and strong. Okay, but nicely creased. And then it's going to kind of go across this way. And we're going to do another background piece. So this is going to be around step number 23 in the book. Yeah, on the middle of page 27. And I have a tendency when I do these, I don't watch the steps because I find that it's easier for me to see what the machine is doing. Then I know where I'm at. Because otherwise, sometimes I get lost if I try to read the directions. There's too many directions. Okay, so we got this one. And now we're going to do another piece with the background. So this runs about right from here to here. And I'm going to run this across here. Make sure it's kind of evenly spaced. And then we'll trim this one on. Or stitch this one on, I should say. And then I think we're going to go back to the purple again. So it usually is about, you know, the black and then the purple and then the black and the purple. Okay, I'm going to flip this one over. It's looking good. Hopefully it turns out okay. But yeah, I watched the video. I had to watch my video to make sure that I did the square and the square blocks that way, and that's the way I did the square and the square. And I'm sure this is the way I did this one, but sometimes my memory fails me. All right, so then we're going to do, let's see, I'm going to make sure I know about where I'm at. Okay, so then we're going to do another goose block. So we're going to trim across the top. Maybe. I need to get a new pair of scissors. These are starting to get dull. I had to get new ones at the store, and these are almost as dull as those were. Across the top. And then we're going to put another goose on. So here we get our purple. And I think the stitching is more over here because it's right here, the little goose. Yeah, you think it looks okay, Connie? I think it looks okay. I mean, it might be a little short down here, maybe, but I think we'll be all right because I can make it work. You know, if I should have probably brought this piece down a little bit, but we'll make it work. Because it is supposed to be 8 inches long. If in doubt, we can make it work. Okay, so we're going to flip this up. But this makes it all happen in one hooping instead of having to do it in two. So if we can make it work this way, it would be much faster than to have to hoop it again. All right, so we're going to put this in, and now it's going to go across this direction, and we're going to put another background piece on. We may just have to use the down here may have to be used. May have to use some of the stabilizer as our seam allowance, but you know that I think it'll be okay. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to trim this one. Oops, this way. But they don't show you in the instructions any of the quilting stuff in this one. This was done before, like the Sweet Land Liberty pillow was actually a little bit more detailed. This one was not very detailed. Okay, so this one's going to be black. So we're going to use one of these black ones, and it's going to be from here to here. So this one's going to be basically the whole area. I had you kind of cut these all the same size. So here we go. Okay, so the only thing I'm worried about is this little bit down here, but you know, I think we can make it work. And I have done them both ways, because I remember, what was the first one I did like this? I did it the other way, and then I quilted it at the end. But it's kind of the same concept when you think of it. It's just you don't have to hoop it more than once. All right, so do this, and then I think the next step, we got this one. And then the next one must be, across the top here. Make sure I know where I'm at. I think I'm on number 31. Oh, just unthreaded itself again. I have to back up because it didn't do the first couple stitches. I don't know, it's something about black thread. Oops. I want to back up to this one. There we go. See if it'll stitch that so I know where to trim. Nope. See, it's unthreaded again. Doesn't like that black thread. I probably should have used the purple. The purple doesn't seem to do it. Black thread has more pigment in it, so sometimes machines don't like black thread very well. So, or you'll notice differences with black threads. It shows black fabric at the bottom. It does? Oh, you know what? I think there's something at the ends. I think it did something at the ends. Huh. Well, let's just keep going. Let's just keep going. Maybe there's some fabric at the end that we got to add. And you know what? I might have done it wrong, but you know what? It's still going to work this way. All right, so this is another little goose. So we need to do the little goose here. Because it really does not tell you how to quilt these in any of the things. And I have done, like I said, I've done this in a way that you have, oh my gosh, this thing just will not stay threaded, guys. Sorry. Being very cantankerous tonight. But I was trying to save time so that we could get it all quilted and everything in one in one hooping. But you know, we might be surprised when we get to the end. All right, so we got this. So I am following the directions, right? So everything seemed to be right when I'm looking at the directions. And then it's going to go across here, and then we're going to do another black section. So there's the goose. I'm going to turn my page because we're on the top of page 28. You add the black at the end? Okay, well, hopefully we'll still be okay then. So we might still be all right, right? It has been a while since I've done this, sorry. Usually I can remember how I did them, and I write pretty decent notes in my book, but. All right. So there is. Oops, and then this one's got the black. So we got to put this on the black. And then this one's pretty long again, so make sure you get it centered. I'm going to flip this over because I've got a little split in my fabric there. Okay, there we go. I have a feeling they were probably trying to keep it in a 5x7 hoop. And if we have to sew something on, we'll just sew it on. All right, so we'll do this. They like to try to keep everything in a 5x7 hoop, so sometimes it makes things strange the way they do it. All right, then we're going to go across here. I think we have one more goose to do. And this is at the bottom. Let's see here. I got to make sure I get the right one. Yep, so this is at the bottom of page 28. Across here. But this one, maybe it was just going to be one of those ones that I should have done it the old way. But I've been doing these this way for a while now. So, okay, so we're going to do this. This is this last little goose. Okay. And here. That. Yeah, because see, this isn't finished off. Right. Well, we'll see how we do here. You seem to be moving along okay. All right, so this is going to flip up. And then it's going to go across here so that we put another background piece in. Yeah, if I get to looking ahead too far, Jan, then I get mixed up. So I have to keep going from where I'm at. So we're doing okay so far. So we'll see if we can make it work out for us. All right, so this one has to be trimmed this way. Like I said, I'm really bad with these because I've done so many of them. I don't watch the directions. And I find the directions very distracting. There's so many words and so many pictures. And I can see what the machine's doing. And so I follow the machine. Okay, so then this is going to be another background piece. I think we're done with the geese. And this is going to go, this is pretty long, so make sure you get it centered. Like that. Let me pull my thread back a little bit so it won't unthread for me today. I really love this purple and this black together. This is one of my favorite blacks too. So I really kind of remember how I did it. Okay, so I think I need to flip it over. Yep, flip the page. I'm on the top of page 29 now. We're going to flip this over. Go this way. Oh yeah, then you put the ends on. Okay. Yep, see, we're going to be fine. It's not going to be as bad as we think. Thanks, Jan. You gave me more confidence. I'm going to go across this way. Whoops. See, it just unthreaded. See, you guys have to watch me struggle tonight. You're so patient with me. Thank you. I appreciate it. I got to back up. I was struggling a little bit with that braid this afternoon because I thought, oh, I have it all figured out. I need to have 5 hoopings and I'll have it all done. And I got done and I was 4 inches short. So guess what? There are 6 hoopings. So, all right. So then we're going to do this one. along here. Have to put another background piece on there. Oops. And there's 2 pieces left, so they must go on the ends, right, Jan? So we got these here, this little piece right, whoops, right here, and right here. It's just like this little corner that we have to cover up. Yep. And I got 2 pieces left, so that's good, right? Do this piece. So this is like step number 61 on the page 29, and then we're going to flip this one over, and then it's going to do the top. And guess what? It's going to sew it on the top. Look at here. We're gonna do it. It's going to work. Look at here. So we got this, and then it's going to sew across here. We're going to get it done yet. It's going to go across the top, and then we're going to trim that one, and then we're going to put another piece there, and then another piece at the bottom. Look at there. We're going to get it done yet. Yay! Cindy says, yay! Well, you know, sometimes I sweat a little bit. I remember doing it this way, but it's like I've forgotten that there's an end, a top and a bottom. Okay. But of course, you know, I'm not looking at the directions. So then we're going to put this one up here. And see, look, that little piece of batting is going to go away. It's just those little things in life, guys. Oh, except that it unthreaded again. Sorry. I also have a piece of, I have a black thread that has a little, the base is a little funky. So I think maybe it catches on my base sometimes. I'm just trying to drag this out as long as possible. Sorry. And then we'll trim. Okay, back up. There we go. All right. Now stay threaded, machine. This black one has a little, the base is a little funny, and it's got a little space. That's, I can't get it to stay. Oh, look, look. The next one's down here. We did it. I think we did it. All right, so I'm going to flip this one up. And then look, it's going to come down here, and it's going to do the bottom. And then we're going to trim, and then it's going to put a piece down there. So look at there. It is going to work out. It just looked really weird, didn't it? Okay, I'm going to trim this one. We had plenty of fabric, but I am glad I moved it over because I would have had that little, I think I would have had a little gap there. That was good I did that. All right, one more piece. We're going to put it in, and look, the batting is no longer showing. Yay. Yes, small things make us happy. That is very true. I enjoy being with you guys every Sunday night. This makes me happy. And you probably giggle at me because I make mistakes on camera, but you know what? It's part of life, isn't it? Okay. Yay, look, there's no batting showing. Isn't that awesome? Okay, so then before I go back and do the quilting, there's two little lines here that are like placement lines, or like trimming lines, I should say. So I think it says in the instructions to put them in a contrasting color. So let's just try like white, because that way we can see when we go to trim these. Okay. But I'm going to quilt it in, I think I quilted it in black, didn't I? I think I quilted it in black, but I don't want to put the trimming lines in the black because I won't be able to see them to trim. So we'll put the white in for a minute and do those little lines. And that's the last step on the machine. So it's just going to go up the sides here, and it's our trimming lines. Going to make sure everything is nice and laid down flat. Yeah, it's funny sometimes how they digitize these, because I know what they're doing is they're trying to keep everything in a 5x7 hoop. And so that's why they would have done this piece and the other piece at the end. because otherwise it would have been too long. They would have started with it to stay in a 5x7 hoop. There we go. Then I think I did it in black. Let me check my color at the beginning here. Quilted it in black. All right. So then we're going to quilt. So now we got to back up, you know, to step number 5 for the quilting. All right. And my black thread that wants to unthread, so hopefully it won't unthread too many more times. Yeah, so the second video with the other blocks should be up on Facebook now. You know, piecing in the hoop, when I first started doing Kimberbell's piecing in the hoop, I learned to do this years ago. And when I digitized my own, I digitized them differently than they do. Whoops, second, sorry. Guess what? I forgot to go ahead. I have to skip ahead. I did the it'll be fine though. I'll just leave it in there. I have to skip down to number 5. Started doing my lines again, but you know what? It's not going to show. So I got my quilting up now. I skipped down. Why did you not bring the quilting design last? Well, you could have, but I needed it. It wouldn't matter. But I needed the placement lines and stuff for the batting, so that's why I put it first. It doesn't matter. You could bring it last, but then you'd have to jump down there and do that. So I just brought it ahead to number 5. I forgot. But you know what? Those lines that are in there aren't going to hurt anything. They're black. There we go. So we have to go to number 5 to do the quilting. So it's going to do the little, this is the one that has the little like spider webs in it. So see, we almost messed up again. This has been I messed up in one of the videos. I think it was the first video. But you guys, I'm sure that if those of you who watched the video that I pre-recorded, I just left it in because it's just fun. So you got to watch me mess up tonight too. There's one of the spider webs. And we'll get ready and get some of this thread out of here so we're ready to trim the blocks and then we'll be done. This is a cute pattern. This is the one with the spider webs and the little spiders on it. You could bring in the quilting design the last. Then I usually do it first because you do need to get your batting down first. So that's why if I brought it in last, I might have forgotten to do that part because you need that underneath the, you need to do that underneath the fabric, of course. You need to have your batting down there first before you can quilt it. So these lines here are going to be 2.5 inches wide apart because it's going to be 2.5 inches, but it was 8.5 inches long when we go to trim it. I think it's going to look just fine. We did it. When I was starting to sweat there for a minute when I thought, well, why is that bottom not? But you know what? It looks just fine now. That's awesome. So yes, the piecing, when I first started piecing the way Kimberbell pieces, their piecing is different because they combine 2 lines. They combine the placement line and the trimming line. So like they have one line that I used to make 2. So it was really hard for me because I was always trying to move ahead too quickly. And now I'm so used to doing it this way. It works really well. And then you don't have quite as many lines showing. But the way they do theirs is they make their, their trimming line, and then their actual seam line is back like 1/4 inch. So it does make it a little different the way it looks on the machine and stuff. So and of course, when you do the quilting in the hoop, you often have to go up the hoop size. So in this case, we could have done the whole block in a 5x7, but in order to do the quilting on it, then we had to go up to a 6x10 because it made it too long with the quilting. So that's the one thing when you do quilting in the hoop, you often have to go up one hoop size in order to accommodate the quilting. All right, we did it. Look, it looks great. So what do you think? We worried for nothing. Look at there. It's all done. So it looks really good. So let's go ahead and trim these. So I'm going to move the camera over real quick and we'll do our trimming. So I'm going to go ahead and take our little mummy out of the hoop here. Put that back here, and I'm going to take our flying geese out of the hoop. We got our trimming lines on there. Oops, I'm stuck here. And then, whoops, boy, I've got thread everywhere. It's one of those nights, guys. Let's see. All right, so I'm going to move this over so that you can see me trim. We'll trim that one first. And I'm going to put the machine into the sewing mode because it makes the arm move, so it's easier for the camera. And of course, my machine decided to unthread itself again. Second, I get my cord wrapped up. All right, so we'll go over this way and we'll do the trimming. So everything worked out for the best. Look at there. Okay, so here is, oops, I'm kind of crooked, aren't I? There we go. All right, so this one, let's go ahead and do this one since we had it up there. It told you to use your 6.5 by 8.5 inch ruler. And we got our batting in there. And it says to visually center the design using the 6.5 by 8.5 inch ruler. And then you're going to cut the long one. So I can see right here and right here where my spider webs are. So I'm going to kind of center those in the hoop, and I can feel where the batting is right here. So I think we'll be okay. And you can also tell where the center is here because there's a center line right here where the seam line is the center. So I can tell that I'm pretty close because I've got my little arrows, kind of pointed towards that. So that's about right, I think. And we're just going to trim off the ends with this ruler. Okay, so let me pull this up a little bit so you can see. I'm just going to trim the ends off. Turn it around. All right, so there's the 8.5. Okay, looks like we did pretty good. Okay, and then these are going to be trimmed off. These are going to be trimmed off. Okay. So we got the 8.5. Yep. That looks good. Yep. And then we're going to trim these on the little lines. Get my other ruler, it's easier. And these are going to be trimmed off on those. Right on the little lines. And that's how I did that braid today too, because you just trimmed on the lines, because it added the cutting lines for you. Yeah. Like that. Trimmed right on my white lines. So yeah, it helped a lot with the white lines. See, look. Okay, so let's measure it and see how we did. So 1.5. So it's supposed to be 8.5 inches long. Look at there. 8.5 inches long, and it is 2.5 inches wide. Look at there. We did it. So there's the block, all done in one hooping. Okay, and you can see the cute little quilt. Can you see the little, here's one of the little spiders ended up on the purple, so it turned out good. All right, so there's that block. Boy, I was sweating on that one. You guys were very patient with me. Thank you tonight. All right, let's do our little mummy. The little mummy, let's back up in the instructions here, make sure. Jan, the upgrades have started to arrive. So what we're waiting on is the hoops. So we have not called. I've gotten a few, but we haven't called anybody because we're waiting on the hoops, and we thought the hoops would be here in a day or two. So, okay. So here is our little, we need our 4.5 by 4.5 inch ruler. I always like to stick the bigger one in too, because then it doesn't move around. So I'm just going to get this kind of lined up with my outline there, kind of get him centered in there, and put this bigger one down. Just helps me hang on to it. So that's the bigger one. Okay. And then we're going to trim this one. So he's just 4.5 by 4.5. Yes, I know, but we're trying to get the kind of everything taken care of at the same time, Jan. So yeah, they have started to come in. I've just gotten a few though. And the hoop they said should be here in the next day or two. So that's why we haven't called anybody yet. Okay. Saves trips for people. But they are starting to arrive. We actually got one machine the other day too. So Jan was asking about the luminaire upgrade. So things are starting to come in very slowly. There's our little guy. He's 4 by 4.5 by 4.5. And I'll finish cleaning him up a little bit. And here's the goose block. And it turned out perfectly. Look at there. And then the other blocks that are on the other video. But no, I'll be calling you as soon as a couple more things come in. So the other video is going to be, these are the square to square blocks, and these are done the same way as this block, as the goose block. Okay, so these are done the same way, and I know I did these the same way too, as I did them, all in one hooping with the quilting. And then this block is the broom, and the broom block, just be careful because you do have to do some piecing, and you're going to have to go back and forth a little bit because you need to quilt it before you put your applique down. And then this one has a little bit of chenille on it too. So this was a fun one. Okay, so you have to kind of go back and forth a little bit on this one. And then the last ones are these border blocks. So these border blocks have to be quilted also, but they're already cut down to the right size. So they are quilted with method number 2. That is in the quilting instructions. So you may have to print those out if you don't have those printed out. But these blocks are already cut down to the right size. So these are also on the video, and I went through that. Okay, so that is all of the blocks. Give me a second here, and I will turn the camera up. Second. So I can say goodbye to everybody. So thank you for being patient with me tonight. I normally remember how I did things, and I remember doing it in the hoop, but I didn't remember that the ends went on last. So that was so exciting to get it all done. So thank you everybody for joining me tonight. Next week is Labor Day, right? Next weekend is Labor Day? Next Sunday? I have to look at the calendar. I think it is. And so we are not going to have class on Labor Day weekend. So we're going to have a week off so you can get all your blocks done and be ready for the borders and the flanges. So we're going to do borders and flanges on which will be the 11th. Okay. So we'll do the borders and flanges on the 11th, and we'll have next week off so everybody can have a nice Labor Day weekend. And then we'll do borders and flanges on the 11th, and then the following week we'll put it together. So that'll give you a week to get all these. There's about 10 or 12 blocks to do. So I figured that'd give you a little time if you had some time over the weekend to do the blocks. So, okay. And then some of you that came in late, this is what we're going to be working on in October. I wanted to show you. This is as far as I've gotten so far. So this is my background piece and my braid for the gather together pillow. And so the next step that I'll be doing next, I'll be quilting this. So I'm going to quilt it, and then we're going to do the embroidery at the end. So that's hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to quilt this. I'm hoping tomorrow night I can get this quilted. So anyways, thanks for putting up with me. I'm so sorry that I was a little nervous about that block, but you know what? It turned out perfect, and it's going to be in our little pillow. And it is easy to do that. We'll do the quilting and everything together. And I've done them the other way, but this way they can be all done in the same hooping. You don't have to hoop it twice. So I was trying to avoid hooping it twice. So thanks, everybody. So I will have everybody have a safe and wonderful Labor Day weekend. And I will see you in 2 weeks to continue on with our pillow, and we'll do the borders and the flanges. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.